They called one a hoe and one a queen, both for doing the exact same thing. They were women in war, fighting silent battles just to survive. Delilah and Esther are two key women in the Bible, and one is an ideal woman, and the other one is known as a trickster. However, Delilah happens to have made her intentions very clear from the very beginning, while Esther creeps in the shadows. Yet, Delilah is branded as the trickster, the conniving woman, and Esther becomes a queen. Today, we're going to be looking at these two women and show how we have been taught to celebrate women when they are working for the right man. Yes, the right man. You see, both of these women were sent by men to seduce a man. And both of these women succeeded. Welcome to Chettenham, a podcast for Africans by Africans. Malika Ouma is I. Now, during this time, the Philistines and the Israelites were at war. Why am I not surprised? Samson was a judge of Israel, and he had extraordinary power. His origin story runs from Judges 13:2-5, where we know about his birth story. His parents, Manoah and his wife, who we do not know the wife's name, could not have children. So an angel of the Lord appeared to them and said that their son would be set apart as a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. From the womb. As a Nazirite, he was never to drink wine or alcohol, touch anything unclean, or cut his hair. And he was to deliver the Israelites from the Palestinians, according to Judges 13:5. And Samson's long hair symbolized his vow towards God and the Spirit of God that devoured him. He believed his superhuman strength was not from his muscles, but from God's empowerment through his hair. Please note, it is very important to remember that. Now, some of his famous killings or feats was killing a lion with his bare hands, Judges 14:6, striking down 1,000 men with a jawbone of a donkey, that's actually crazy, Judges 15:15, and carrying away the massive gates of Gaza, Judges 16:3. Now, this guy was clearly a problem to the Philistines. Like, they needed a solution ASAP. So what do? They got a beautiful woman to seduce him, and this is where we meet Delilah. Delilah was a woman from the valley of Sorek, and was recruited by the rulers of Philistine. The Philistinian rulers told Delilah to find out what his strength is, and each of them will give her 1,100 shekels of silver. Being a woman in a time of war, she agreed. And the Philistines at that time did not seem like people who you'd say no to, because clearly they were really going through a lot of nonsenses through the Israelites. And Israelites have a history of doing that. But that is not specifically what this episode is all about. We're talking about the enemies of the Israelites, with Israelites and Philistines. So back to it. So anyway, she seduces him as she's told to, and he falls hopelessly in love with her, according to Judges 16:4-6. So the first time she asked him, and he said 7 fresh bowstrings, according to Judges 16:6-9. So Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me the secret of your strength." And Samson answered her, "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man." But she did that, and guess what? He snapped them like. So she's like, "Okay, you definitely played me." Like, cool. She asked him the second time, and he said, "Brand new ropes," according to Judges 16:10-12. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have made me a fool. You've made a fool of me." And he said, "If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man." And yeah, believe me, she did it. She tried it. And what did he do? He snapped the ropes. Like, they were literally threads. Literally threads. So she's like, "What the hell?" She asks him the third time, and he says, weaving his hair, according to Judges 16:13-14. Delilah said to Samson, all this time you have been making me a fool. And he replied, if you were to weave 7 braids of my hair into the fabric of a loom and tighten it with a pin, I'll become as weak as any other man. But he awoke from his sleep and pulled off the pins and the loom, and yeah, you guessed it right. He was not made weak. Now the 4th time she asks him, and he actually says the truth. His uncut hair, according to Judges 16:15 to 17. Then she said to him, how can you say, I love you, when you wouldn't confide in me? With such a nag, she prodded him the day after day after day until he was actually Ali Boy Kanayo, like Ali Boy Kanayo. And he's like, fine, I'm going to tell you, no razor has ever been used on my head. And he said, this is because I'm a Nazarite and I have been dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head was shaved, my strength would leave me. And this is where all shit goes down. From Judges 16:18 to 21, Delilah calls the Palestinian rulers when Samson has revealed his secret. She lures him to sleep where? On his laps. And calls to shave his hair. Calls for a guy to shave his hair. And yeah, his hair was shaved. His strength left him. The Philistines, seized him. They gouged out his eyes. And they took him to Gaza. And they bounded him with bronze shackles. And finally, they forced him to grind grain in prison. And this was a humiliating job usually given to slaves or to animals during that time. This is all according to Judges 16:23-27, where the Philistine ruler held a great festival in the temple of their god Dagon to celebrate Samson's capture. They praised Dagon for delivering Samson into their hands. Thousands and thousands gathered in the temple, including rulers, people are watching from the roof, like people are, like it was this big thing. And they brought Samson out to entertain them, to technically mock him. And a servant placed Samson between the temple pillars. Now in Judges 16:28-30, Samson prayed. Samson prayed, Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, give me my strength just one more time. With renewal of strength, he pushed against the 2 center pillars. And what happened? The temple collapsed, killing way more than he had killed during his lifetime. It killed 3,000 Philistines. Sorry for that. Now in Judges 16:31, Samson's family came and they buried him in his father's tomb. His father is who? Manoah. His mother? We don't know. And he was a judge, before his death, he was a judge for Israel for 20 years. Now, that was a lot of information, so I'm going to need to hydrate. Even before I hydrate, first of all, I do not understand why, I don't understand why most of the women in the Bible have to be attached to a man for them to be identified. Like Samson's parents, we only know of his father, Manoah, and nothing about his mother. This itself is a huge problem, because how do you write a story but includes one father, but does not include their mother? That is already a problem. That is such a big problem. And we need to start figuring this out. We need to honestly start figuring this out. And then another thing, how many times are you going to ask somebody for something and then they still don't catch that you're trying to trap them? This babe asked Samson 4 times. The first 3 times, this shorty, he should have clocked it. He should have been like, this babe, there is something sinister that she's trying to achieve here. But no. I'm sorry, but I'm actually not sorry, but he actually sounds like a dummy with muscles. And she, honestly, she was the OG of beauty with the braids. And I honestly, personally, do not support the narrative that she's a seductress. I don't think it's actually so accurate. And if you really think about it, it actually really seems like she was sent here. She was sent into this situation by God for Samson, For Samson to realize that the strength of his power is nothing, has got nothing to do with his hair, but has got to him tapping in the greatness inside you. Because if you go back and read the full verse, I didn't quote the whole thing. If he goes back and read the full thing, he actually says, come and tap into me and give me the strength. He begs God. It's like we're saying God helps those who help themselves. And he needed to help himself. He needed to help himself. And unfortunately, Delilah was crucified as a whore, as a seductress, when actually this babe was very truthful from the very beginning. Like alisema ukweli, mimi nitakuja biknisa nywele yako ni nini. And her story was intentionally twisted. And I hate it. I hate how she was twisted. And I hate how whenever a woman is being insulted, they will always call her a Jezebel or a Delilah. And just because these women decided to push the envelopes, something that men technically do, but then they're always called the heroes. And women are called the whores. Now let's go to our other lady of the day, Esther. Esther. The story of how a young Jewish woman became the queen of Persia and saved her people from annihilation. Now, according to Esther 1, King Xerxes was the ruler of the Persian Empire, and he hosted a grand festival lasting 180 days. This was just to show off his wealth and power. Just to show off his wealth and power. And after 7 days, afterwards, he had another 7-day banquet in the gardens. Now, at the climax of his event, he said, let me call my queen, Queen Vashti, to appear and show the nobles her beauty, you know. Let me show that I have a babe who's fine. And you know what Vashti said? She's like, oh, hell no, she refused. And this shocked everybody because in that time and in that culture, the king's word was law. The nobles feared that she would inspire other women to disobey their husbands. So the advice he got from his counselors was to dispose of who? Vashti. And to get what? Get a new queen. And yet another classic example of men fearing women standing up for themselves against bullshit that men do. And then who is punished? The woman. Who is labeled as a bad woman? The woman. Let's keep going. Esther 2. A search begins for a beautiful young woman across the empire, and among them was Hadassah, Esther, a Jewish orphan who was being raised by her cousin Mordecai. Now, she was taken to the queen's harem, but before she was, 1, they hid her Jewish identity, and 2, she went through a year of beauty treatments. So after the year, Esther was presented to the king, and he loved her. He fell in love with her more than any of the other women and named her queen, according to Esther 2:17. Meanwhile, Mordecai uncovered a plot by 2 guards who were going to assassinate the king, and akaambia nani? Esther. He reported it through Esther. And Esther did what? Went and told the king, and he was saved. His loyalty was recorded in the royal chronicles, a detail that would later save the Jews. Please do not forget that. Now, Esther 3, we have Haman, an Agagite rose from high power in the Xerxes court, and he demanded that everybody should bow before him. But Mordecai was like, nah, because as a Jew, we don't just bow to any Tom, Dick, and Harry. And who got mad? Haman. Instead of punishing Mordecai alone, he plotted a genocide against the Jewish empire. That is according to Esther 10-11. So he took the king's signet, which is his ring. So Haman made plotted a genocide against the Jewish empire, according to Esther 3:10-11. So the king had actually taken his signet ring and given it to Haman so that he could be able to rule and do his shebang. And he took advantage of that. He kept some of the king's money and was like, do the people as you please. Do the people as he pleased. And what did he do? He casted a lot, a day in where like a lottery, people to choose a day where they're going to execute the Jewish. And on the 13th day of the 12th month, all Jews are to be destroyed. That is a decree that he put. And this decree spread fear throughout the empire. Mind you, the king does not know about this. Esther 4. Mordecai tears up his clothes. He tears them, he wears sackcloth, and he mourns, and he says one to Esther, and it's like, please talk to the king about this. And she's hesitant. She's hesitant because approaching the king without being summoned was punishable by death unless he extended his golden scepter to you. Mordecai replies with famous words from the book, and he says, "Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. And who knows but that you have come to the royal position at such a time as this." This is according to Esther 4:13-14. Now, Esther accepts the calling and says, "You know what? I'll go to the king even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." That is Esther 4:16. And she asked the Jews to pray and fast for 3 days. Now, Esther 5:2, she approaches the king and he extends his gold scepter, sparing her life. Instead of making her request immediately, what does she do? She invites him and Haman for a banquet. Now, at this banquet, she invites them again for the second banquet the next day. Haman left the first banquet feeling so proud, but his pride turned into fury when he saw who? Mordecai refusing to bow to him. So as he was reading it, I've told you this, but it was never rewarded. Yes, the time was never rewarded. Don't forget that. At that very time, Haman was coming to ask permission to hang Mordecai. Hiyo ndio intention yake. So the king asks Haman, what should be done for the man the king delights to honor? He thinks about it and he thinks that it's him. And he says, a lavish display of royal robes, a horse, and a public parade. And the king then commands him, do just as you have suggested for Mordecai, the Jew. That is according to Esther 6:10. Humiliated. Haman gets so mad that the very man he's trying to get rid of is being honored. Esther 7. At the second banquet, the king asked Esther her request, and this time she revealed her true identity as a Jew, according to Esther 7:5-6. And she tells him, we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. And the king got enraged, demanded to know, who is he? And Esther answered, an adversary and an enemy. And this is Haman. The king ordered Haman to be hanged in the very gallows he prepared for Mordecai to be hung. Now in Esther 8:11-15, although Haman is dead, the decree could not be revoked because Persian law is irreversible, especially the king's law. So instead, the king ordered a new decree where the Jews could now defend themselves on the appointed day. On the 13th of Adar, the Jews fought back and defeated their enemies. Haman's 10 sons were killed, and yes, the Jews celebrated with joy. Now in Esther 9, Mordecai writes letters about the festival and keeps reminding the Jews to keep observing this year in remembrance. Because they have to remember that how they were delivered. They have to remember. They really have to remember and give pride and homage to that. Esther 9:22. Now Esther 10:3. Mordecai rises into ranks and becomes second after king, which is a very big honor. And it's a very good place for the Jews. Yes, Esther remains as queen, remembered as the woman who risked her life to save Israel. Now, as I said earlier, these are two women who did the exact same thing to survive during a time of war by doing the bidding of men. So these two women did the exact same thing. They were surviving during a time of men by having to do the bidding of men. Delilah was straightforward. Esther was creeping about her mission. And yes, it was scary for both women. But we spend so much time hating one instead of understanding what she actually did. And the same thing happens to Mary Magdalene. The same thing happened to Mary Magdalene. She was given very spiritual knowledge by Jesus, and they made her a hoe. This information, by the way, was discovered in the late 19th century in the Berlin Codex, the 5th century CE, with fragments in Greece Greek, which have been found earlier. Mind you, they've been trying to destroy this text, and they were written in the 20th century CE. It's not part of the Bible because the early church leaders did not include it in the official canon. And it only survives in fragments of the beginning, and some of the middle portions are missing. So we don't have the full text, which already is a problem. It's breaking the command of God. I mean, God was pretty clear about adding, subtracting his word, both in the New and the Old Testament, but it happens. In the Old Testament, he makes his instructions beyond clear. Deuteronomy 4:2, do not add what I command you, and do not subtract from it, but keep the command of the Lord your God that I give you. Deuteronomy 12:32, see that you do all I command you. Do not add or take away from it. Let's go to Proverbs. Proverbs 35:6. Every word of God is flawless. He is a shield to those who take refuge to him. Do not add to his word, or he will rebuke you and prove you a liar. That is just in the Old Testament. And in the New Testament, Revelation 12:18-19 says, I warn everyone who hears the word of the prophecy of this scroll. If anyone adds anything to them, God will add to that person the plague described in this scroll. And if anyone takes away from this scroll of prophecy, God will take away from that person any share in the tree of life in the holy city. Those sound like very clear instructions to me. How many people have altered the very word of God just for their own benefits? And these people are men. How many? Like submission, women are told to submit and men are told to love and respect their wives. But why is that part about men loving and respect their wives always ignored? And furthermore, the word submit, the origin of the word submit is a Greek word, which means it isn't compulsory, it's willing. It is not obedience, it is voluntary. This is one of the problems and one of the things that translation did, a process that literally changed the meaning of words. Things that are not supposed to be changed or corrupted. Some people will come and call me an atheist, and I'm fine with that. I'm used to it by now. But that's what people who feel a certain way when you clock nonsense, when you clock narratives that were created by human beings, and they said, oh, it's God who said. No. No, even the word sin means to miss the mark, not to make a mistake, not that you're going to die. But humans are left with this, how can I say it, with these flaws. We're left with these flaws of control. And religion, especially in the African concept, is an enemy that we as Africans are holding on so tightly to like it's our child. We are so quick to say that racism was bad, that corruption is bad, that colonialism was bad, that slavery was bad. But no. Religion was good. How can the same thing that was used to capture, kill, dehumanize, belittle our ancestors, your ancestors, be good, and defend the one thing that makes you believe that God only loves those who like to suffer. That is the dumbest narrative. They made you believe that you have to suffer every day to prove that you love God, that you believe in God. Let me tell you something about my Creator. My Creator loves me so much. My Creator values me. My Creator sees me, sees the greatness in me, the importance of me, the need of me, and does not need me to be in any kind of pain to prove my love, my respect, and my loyalty. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with dying to that. Because there's no way you are going to make me believe that all of my ancestors went to hell for not believing in Jesus Christ as God. You know, Christians are so quick to say Jesus is God, but Jesus is not God. And honestly, I think Jesus would honestly fuck with African Christianity, spirituality, because that was his whole mojo. It was his whole path. That was his whole thing. And he said it himself. He is not God. He is the Son of God. So why did Christianity make him one? Why did Christians make Jesus God? When God has always said, Jesus always said, umseni baba yangu. Why are you as a Christian so quick to defend this book that has been corrupted already? The very thing God said don't do with my word is the very thing that was done. But you are willing to die for this. As I said earlier, people are going to call me atheist. And by the way, an atheist is somebody who doesn't believe in God. Or, let me say, a greater spirit, a greater being. I believe in a creator. There is a spirit that is here. Even in Genesis, it literally said a spirit was roaming around. Do you know who gave the spirit gender? Humans. And it's crazy. It's crazy that people spend so much time defending this narrative. On either the last episode or the last 2 episodes, I gave you guys a quote that said that when they came, we had the land and they had the Bible. They told us, let us close our eyes and pray. And when we opened our eyes, they had the land and we had the Bible. What does that tell you? I'm not saying don't believe in something or in someone. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying open your eyes. Actually open your eyes and understand what you're being told. This whole series of mine is literally based off the Bible. The very same Bible. How do you create a book together, but go ahead and say, you know what? There's some books that are not going to be here. Ati, who wrote it? What did they believe in? No. Who gave them this authority? Who actually gave them this authority? Yet the very, very same book says what? We've just gone through it. Do not change, do not alter. And that happened in the very beginning. And this is why, if I'm being very honest, this is something that makes me respect the Islamic religion. I'm not saying that it's better than any. None of them are better. Oh my God, let me make that clear first of all. None of the religious groups is better than the other. All of them, yes, from Hinduism, from Christianity, from Buddhism to Islam, all of them are a sense of control. All of them. Go to Afghanistan, where they're making women cover even their eyes. Macho anangalia na macho moja, na si macho moja full, half. Macho yake imefungwa na mesh. And why do they say you do that? Oh, because you have to stop. You don't provoke the men. Do you know how many stories and how many videos you see of men in these Islamic countries stopping small girls who are walking with their brothers and kissing them in public? Do you know how many? So it is not enough. It is the epitome of lies, of hypocrisy. Religion is the epitome of lies and hypocrisy. Religion and believing in someone greater than you are 2 different things. And from the very beginning of this series, I did break down also the meaning of the word religion. The concept is beautiful. Beautiful concept. Beautiful in theory. Beautiful. Have people come together, tap together, and get the greatness inside you. Why do you think they said, when 2 people are gathered, it's a church? Why? And they always tell you, a church is not a building. iko kenye iko ndani yako. Lakini kuna mtu akiona content kai inamwambia tu the plain blank truth. Malika is an atheist, and I'm like, you know what? Call me an atheist as long as you want. I don't care. But you are not gonna keep convincing me that I have to live and I have to be suffering for me to be blessed. You are not gonna make me keep believing that women like Esther are better than women like Delilah. You are not gonna keep me believing that. You are not going to have me telling my children that. No. You are not. But if you want to continue living in your life, you know you have two options. This is blue pill, red pill moment. Sacrifice of religion is blue pill or red pill. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to simply show you the facts. Religion is the one thing that destroyed Africa. Because it attacked our spirits. It attacked our backbone. And it is still attacking our spirit. It is still rotting away our backbone. Now you have the option. You have the option of actually reading between the lines of all of these stories in the very same Bible they write. You have that option. Or you have the option to keep being like, you know what? Yeah, let me keep suffering so that God can keep blessing me. Oh my God, you know what? Let me even go and bribe God so that God can keep blessing me. And when I say bribing God, I mean tithe. Tithe is the biggest bribe. Oh my gosh! The biggest bribe on this earth. Let me leave even with a question. What will God do with money? No. What will God do with money? Is money a way to show God that I am living in a righteous way? Or is doing righteous things a way of showing that I'm living a righteous life? Answer that question for yourself. Answer that question for yourself and think about it. Does it really make sense? Does it really make sense? Everything the white man brought, we have somehow managed to make it African. We have somehow managed to make it African. We have somehow managed to keep living in Delulu. If you want to check out of the Delulu, a subscription button is there. Check out of the Delulu. Because you really want me. You really want me as an African child, as a daughter of the soil, to believe that my people, my ancestors, are all burning in pits of fire. You must be mad. You must honestly be mentally decapitated. So if I were you, actually, no, I'm not even going to tell you what to do if I were you. You know, if I was you, but I'm not you, I'll check out of the Lulu and actually do what you were told to do. Do what Christ actually says. Finally, does it make sense for somebody who wrote on demonology, practiced demonology, wrote on cannibalism, practiced cannibalism, also wrote you the Bible and said, this is the word, the good word? Yeah, that was King James. Go Google what King James used to write about before starting translating the Bible. Go read. And then I want you to think. religion has made you not think. And I'm not lying to you. I've told you a bitter fact that you are not gonna like me about, and I don't need you to like me. I honestly don't give two shits if you like me. Because a fact can never be a fact can be an opinion, but an opinion can never be a fact. And these things I'm bringing here are facts. Not just opinions, are facts. That's it from today. Malika Oma is I. Stay African and stay very, very radical. See you next time.